Hi there, and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Rosa Coelho, health coach, trainer, and teacher. I'm also founder of the Simply Strong programs and community. Here, we cut through the noise to simplify health, personal growth, and lifestyle, helping you to thrive with ease, confidence, and vitality. Listen in because you never know when you may hear something that changes everything. Hello, beautiful friend. Happy Valentine's Day. Look, I'm not sure what day you're listening to this, but I purposely chose this day to publish this episode with my dear friend and psychotherapist, Peggy. Peggy has been on the podcast before. We talked all about relationships, and we always intended to do one for this day because why not? This episode was so beautiful. It's all about relationships and self-worth. And just like her last episode that she was on, she really helped me to change my perspective on a few things. And I love that. I just love it when we can hear people and see a different point of view and grow from it. And that's what I got out of this episode. I'm not going to talk too long on this intro. I'm going to put all of Peggy's details in the show notes so that you can get in touch with her. Enjoy this episode. It is 100% worth it. And if you love it, please share it on social media, on Instagram, and put it out there so that we can help each other to continue to grow in this beautiful journey of the human experience. Hi, Peggy. Welcome back to our second podcast together.
Hi, Rose. So excited to be here again. Thank you.
Me too. Where does the time go? Because last time we did talk about, okay, let's get you on around Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
So it's like the month of love. I love February, but to
I
be
know.
honest, I love that it's just hearts everywhere because it's usually winter and dreary. And for people that don't love it, I do love it.
I love seeing all the little paper cutout hearts and
Yeah,
people
why
dancing.
not?
Yeah.
I know it's made up and all the things, but I think there's a lot of just sometimes you could just have fun to have fun.
Yeah.
So thanks for being back on. I can't believe the time's gone so quickly. We were just chatting a little bit before getting on, and I was like, wait, let's go on and hit record quick because we always seem to get into these really wonderful conversations that I know are so beneficial to someone else listening in. It's like two girls having a chat.
Well, and what better thing to chat about than love and relationships, which
Yeah.
is, definitely on people's minds this month, but, such a huge part of our lives all the time.
It is. It is. And it's interesting because I always thought when you're younger and you picture yourself being older, you don't picture this still being something that you're talking about, but it's even obviously even more so. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get right into it. So we're going to be talking about relationships and self-worth. That's like the theme for this conversation. Let's start right off where when you talk about relationships, you talk about relationships being mirrors for self-worth. And I love that. What does that actually look like?
Yeah, well, I've really been developing this concept and mostly out of my personal experience, but also out of my work life and working with clients and couples, recognizing that relationships are actually a sacred practice. They actually are the most potent way that we can feel and remember the light within. So when we're in relationship with somebody, and we've all had this experience of connecting with somebody who is so present and so attuned, and it's like we see our worth and value through the way they're showing up to us. That's the mirror. They're mirroring to us our value, our essential worth. Unfortunately, we've all been in the other circumstance too, where you're with somebody and they are so dismissive, or they do behaviors that really have you feel like you don't matter. And
Mhm.
they mirror to us an untruth that we don't have value or we don't have worth. So that's why doing relationships well and having the skills to be healthy in relationship, it
Mm.
feels like a sacred task because we have a lot of power in our relationships to either shine somebody's light back at them or
Mm.
reflect to them something that isn't true about who they are.
That's so beautiful. And, just reflecting on relationship from my side of it and the experience of it, I completely agree with everything you're saying is I always talk about health and I'm on the other side of it, the more physical side, the nutrition and the workouts and all the things. But obviously I believe that health is so much more than that. And I know through my own experiences of heartache or being in love that it also feels really physical. And I think that's why
Mm,
it's so important to take the time to, listen to like this episode, listen to things that you're saying, because when you're in the not so fun side of it.
mhm,
It feels hard,
mhm.
physically hard.
And the body is actually incredibly important in relationships beyond the physicality of
Mhm,
relationships. Our body is our best barometer of whether or
mhm,
not we're in a healthy relationship or a healthy situation. Our body is going to tell us first, and our body's always going to tell us the truth. So
mhm,
when we are connecting with somebody and it feels really good, we're going to feel that relaxed nervous system. We're going to feel that safety
mhm.
within us. And when we're with somebody and something isn't quite right, or there's some element that isn't healthy for us, often that will show up in the body first. So, in a way, it's really important to be connected to our body and think of it like teamwork. Like, body, you're telling me if this is actually a good situation or a good person for me or not.
I love that. I love these conversations and how we intertwine that, because we know that like body soul connection, it's all connected, and yet
Hmm.
somewhere in our Western world we just like separate it so much when it's not separate at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, speaking about that, how come we know that many women do avoid conflict to keep the peace and end up
Hmm.
swallowing their words? I always say to women, like I have this theory. It's kind of my woo side too, that like a lot of thyroid issues and things come from swallowing our words, because when
Hmm.
we feel that tightness in that thyroid area when we're doing that.
Absolutely. That's the throat chakra. That's all about speaking our
uh,
truth and having our voice. And it's important to have that open so that we are grounded in our truth.
oh, let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how women avoid conflict and what that
Yeah.
pattern does to our self-worth.
Yeah. Well, what's coming to mind right now, it's actually one of my favorite little videos you can find on YouTube, and it's Dr. Gabor Mate, and he talks about this principle of how human beings have two overwhelming drives. And so we can use women specifically, but all people have two overwhelming drives: attachment, I need to belong, and
Mm,
authenticity. I need to be myself. I need to be true to myself.
mm,
But the problem is, and how I would answer your question, is those come into conflict with each other. So as women, if we're in relationship and we sense that the person outside of us is uncomfortable, or they might not like us, or we might not be perceived as nice, or are we going to be perceived as selfish? We're guarding the attachment, we're guarding the relationship and how that other person feels. And sometimes that's in direct conflict with us being guards of our own authenticity and our own truth. So we wind up swallowing our truth and figuring out or guessing at, what does this other person need from me? What do they need me to say? How do I need to be in this moment? And meanwhile, we are then becoming more and more inauthentic in a way. We might seem
mm.
very nice on the outside, and we
Yeah.
might have a pretty intact relationship because the person we're with feels comfortable, but
Mm,
who's paying the price is ourselves, because over time we're feeling less comfortable. I always say a yes to them is often a no to us. And
right.
so what we wanna find is that double yes, when a yes to you is also a yes to me,
Mm,
meaning I am being true to myself, and through being true to myself and being authentic in this relationship, I'm serving both people, because now you're getting the authentic version of me, and then the attachment we have, we can trust, because you're not attaching to an inauthentic, pleasing side of
mm,
me, you're attaching to the true me, to my truth.
right. I love that. A yes to you and a yes to myself. I
Yeah,
don't know how often we actually just think of that.
yeah, yeah.
That's beautiful.
It's
And we're also sorry, I
Go
was gonna
ahead.
say we're also talking outside of romantic relationships, right? Like,
Yeah.
this could just be relationship within friendships, within close family members.
Absolutely. In fact, most of the work that I do when I'm working with couples and when I'm hosting workshops, I have an upcoming retreat over Valentine's Day for couples. But the skills that I'm teaching are 100% transferable to all
Mm,
of our close relationships, especially all of our family or close friendships. And oftentimes they can spill over and be helpful with colleagues or with some of our more distant relationships too, because at the end of the day, we're two hearts that are connecting. And there's
mhm.
so much that goes on in the dynamic, in the relational dynamic. So the more skilled we are in general, the more that's going to spill over and just create harmony in all our relationships.
Mm. So I'm just thinking like practically like this whole idea of making it at a yes for you and a yes for me so that I don't self-abandon and become
Exactly.
someone that I'm not. What steps do women take so that they don't keep swallowing those words and keep not being their authentic selves? Does this come down to learning how to communicate effectively or is there
Yeah.
more to it?
Well, unfortunately, it requires what I often call the messy middle, which
Mm,
is, first of all, shining a light on awareness that we're doing it, having the awareness that I'm actually not being true to myself. And often that gateway to understanding that is our body, beginning to recognize we're not comfortable because we can lie to ourselves and we can
mhm,
tell ourselves, yeah, that it's okay that I'm overcommitting. It's okay that I'm always the one planning the dates or whatever it is. But then over time, that resentment begins to bubble up and we begin to recognize, oh, it's not okay. And where we do tend to go is then feeling victimized and blaming the other person.
mhm,
But that often leaves us disempowered because we don't get to control another person's behavior, but
yeah,
we have entire control over our own behavior. So a more empowered stance is actually to look at some self responsibility and witness
mhm,
instead of feeling resentful that I'm always the one planning the dates, for example, why don't I witness the fact that I didn't ask for what I needed or I said yes when I meant no? So, first of all, it's beginning to witness ourselves doing it. But then that takes us into what I call the messy middle, where we witness that we're doing an old pattern, but we might not yet have the skills to do the
mhm,
different pattern. So there's this middle time of practicing where sometimes we witness ourselves get it wrong. But over time, we begin practicing the skills. And in this case, it's the brave skill of standing in our truth, even when it risks upsetting somebody else or risks an aspect of the dynamic. We witness ourselves practicing that skill over time until it gets much, much more comfortable. And there's a formula that I like to teach people, which is it's a body based formula. And essentially, it's being when you're in relationship and things are fine, there's usually that moment where it slips to not fine anymore.
mm,
Something shifts and our inner state goes from fine, we're relaxed, we're comfortable, we're having a good time. And then something happens outside of us and our inner state shifts to not fine. So, what I say is notice that moment, catch
mm,
that moment. And the minute you catch that moment, go into your body and ask your body, what's the emotion I'm feeling right now? And register an actual emotion. Ask the internal question I'm feeling what? And maybe it's hurt or disappointed or rejected. Then the next internal question is what is it that I would want in this moment to feel better?
mm,
And get very clear about what it is that's happening outside of you that's not working for you or what's not happening that you would need to happen. That inner process, that gives you a huge answer to what your true yeses are, what your truth is. The next step is verbalizing it or making it external and asking it the other person for what you need or setting a boundary. That's much harder. It takes a lot more courage. But if you can just get the first two steps down, that's you not self abandoning. That's you
mm,
being honest with yourself first. And then it might take time to get to the point where you can be really good in practice at asking often and,
mm,
ideally as much as possible, speaking your truth, setting your boundaries, asking for what you need in relationship so that there's more balance. Because
mm,
it's not always the case, but a lot of the times there's an imbalance around the I see you, I see me. So, an
mm,
imbalance around empathy and boundaries, where a lot of women lead with a lot of empathy and compassion and do a
mm,
lot for their partners, but don't have as easy a time holding boundaries and asking their
mm,
partner to see them and do for them. And the healthiest relationships are the ones that strike a beautiful balance of I see you, I have empathy, I see your needs, I negotiate with you, and I see me. I
Mm,
have boundaries, I have needs, and I'm brave enough to speak them into this moment and ask you to negotiate with
yeah.
me.
Oh, I love that. I love that it is a practice. This is so much of what I teach too. Like when you are in maybe a habit pattern that isn't healthy, the first thing you need to do is be honest with yourself and acknowledge it and recognize it. And at first you're just going to see it and you might not even make the right choice the next time or the next
Yeah.
time, but eventually you do make the right choice and then you might fall back again and then you make the right choice a few times. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what I see in this too. It's really building that habit and it's a practice like anything. We all want to get everything right, like follow this plan and do this and this is
Yeah.
what you say at this time, but it doesn't work that way. It's like building blocks.
Yeah, I've had a really humbling experience just recently, actually, in one of
Mm,
my relationships where I thought I had made a ton of progress and thought I had advanced and was feeling kind of smug about it, actually. Like, look how much healthier I am than I used to be.
yeah.
But if you don't maintain that practice and keep your foot on the gas,
Mhm.
those old behaviors, most of them were formed early in childhood, like
Yeah.
really early. Most of them are so familiar to us because they are familial, they come from our family system.
Mhm.
And if we don't keep super conscious and keep practicing, it's
Mhm.
so easy to slip back into those familiar ways. So I found myself having to witness and go, wow, I didn't keep that particular behavioral practice up. And now I'm paying the price in this relationship.
Mhm.
And so what it means is a ton of self compassion because we're not meant to be
Yeah.
perfect at this. And it
Love
means just absorbing the self compassion and saying, that's okay. But now I see it. And when I see it, now I can implement changes. Now I'm conscious to it. And now I
Mhm.
can behave differently and be in my own corner in a way that maybe I wasn't.
I love that, and well, you say self-compassion, but also, I mean, this is life, we're not perfect beings, but
Yeah.
then when you probably recognize it a lot quicker, and also
Yeah.
now you have the skills to get back at it a lot quicker too. You don't have to stay stuck for as long as before.
That's absolutely right. And Rose, I often have people come into therapy for the first time and they're ready to do their work and they're
Mm.
hoping that it means they're going to heal their wounds.
Yeah.
And what I like to say is in my experience, we are healing our wounds, but
Mhm.
we don't actually get to that perfected place of wholeness where we never get triggered. Although what
Mhm.
can happen is as we get more conscious, just as you say, we can get triggered a lot less often, recognize it a lot quicker,
Mm.
stay in the trigger for a much shorter time, and find our way to the skills that give us a full repair so we can repair whatever our triggered state broke. So, doing the work is not about never having these challenges or never getting triggered
Mhm.
in our relationships. Doing the work and maintaining the work is about just getting conscious enough that we
Yeah.
can be truly adult. Because when we get triggered in relationships, 100% of the time, it's because we're being regressed to a childlike state.
Mhm. Yeah.
So this is about learning how to hold the child within us who was maybe
Mhm.
hurt when we were little and then gets triggered by a romantic partner now. How do we
Mhm.
hold them through the trigger, but also get back to our fully adult self so that we can be conscious of it and especially repair what
Yeah.
happened in the moment with our partner.
Yeah, and I'd imagine that the more often you touch that point of the point where you feel like everything is going really well and you're in those blissful states, which is
Yeah.
wonderful, that when you come away or you slip back from that or something else triggers you, that remembering how good that was is enough incentive to want to do the work again and to keep moving forward.
Yeah, as long as you stay out of shame,
Mhm.
because what can
Right.
happen is like remembering how good it could be
Yeah.
can loop us into a shame spiral of being so angry at ourselves that
Right.
we slip back. But if
Mhm.
we can instead just use it as motivation and see that concept that we don't unknow what we
Yes.
know, we don't unlearn what we learned.
Mhm.
So even if our regression, quote unquote, or a trigger feels like the way we behaved, say, many years ago, it's not the same because we are a new person carrying our knowledge, carrying our
Love that.
tools into a new relationship. So we haven't actually slipped all the way back to where we
Right.
were. We're in this, I love the metaphor of an upward healing coil. It's like we always move in an upward trajectory. It's just
Mhm.
not a straight line. It's
Yes.
more like a coil that can loop back. And those are those triggered moments.
Mhm.
So
Awesome.
just remembering that is we can trust that we are evolving, we are shifting even when we slip back.
Yeah, how wonderful. When relationships do feel strained, like what does this whole repair process look like?
I love this question. It's actually one of my favorite topics right now in relationships is repair and apology and what it actually is all about and how to get it right versus when it can go really sideways because it makes a huge difference. At the heart of all of our relationships, all of our good, close relationships is intimacy. And I
Mhm,
like the little mnemonic, into me you see. It's a
mhm.
little cutesy, but I like it
Yeah, I
because
like
that's really what intimacy is. It's like, I feel good enough with you and safe enough with you that I'm going to open the curtains to my soul, to my heart, and you're going to
Mhm.
get to see me, the real me. But in order to do that, it has to be safe. You have
Yeah.
to feel like I'm going to let you see me and I can trust you with my heart. I can trust you not to judge me. I can trust
Mm,
you to show up in a way that tells me that I do matter and that you are there for me and that you accept me. And
mhm.
to have that safety breach, which is what happens
Yeah.
when we injure each other, is that that intimacy curtain can start to close again. So repair is all about restoration of safety. It's
Mhm.
about saying something that happened between us hurt you, and it may have had you feel less safe in the relationship. And I want to restore safety. So, first of all, that's the intention. It's recognizing when we've hurt somebody that the onus is on us to be responsible and accountable, but also to repair what was broken, which is usually the safety. So an apology is really a gift to the person you're in relationship with. It's an offering. So ideally the person who's coming with the apology is coming with that mindset of I have an offering for you and I need to repair what's broken.
Mhm.
And where it can sometimes go wrong is if people are carrying a lot of guilt or shame,
Mhm.
they can offer the apology, but they're looking for the gift in return. And the gift they're looking for is forgiveness or compassion or see me, don't judge me, see me differently. And
Right.
you can sometimes feel the need off of them. Like if they're coming to apologize to you, but you can feel or sense that really they have need. There's a need behind it. They're needing you to let them know that we're okay.
Mhm.
Those don't land in the same way as an apology that comes from somebody where they seem like they're really in their adult and they don't have a need of you. They're there to offer you something,
Right.
offer you a true recognition of what you've been through, a true honoring of the way that safety was breached.
I love that. You know what? Just when you were explaining that, I almost wanted to take it a step before that
Yeah.
because you touched on this idea of safety
Yeah.
and how often do you see perhaps maybe a beginning of relationships where we overshare when it's not safe and then we're in a situation where we feel like unsafe and maybe that just wasn't the right time. So how do you know that you are in a safe relationship to be sharing like your most intimate thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is trial and error and listening to your
Mhm.
body and, really finding what are those signals in your own body that tell you that you're safe and what are the traits in the
Mm,
partner that help you to feel that and feeling it out. And a lot of it is getting it wrong. I definitely have had that experience of wanting so badly to join and connect with somebody and then oversharing and then having that vulnerability hangover, when you leave the
yes.
encounter and you're like, oh, why did I say that?
Yeah,
And,
I'm
it's
sure.
about, we've
Yeah.
all had that experience and we have to just learn from it. And then this is where getting conscious helps, inquiring after. So if I leave, say I'm at a book club with new women I'm just meeting, and I find myself oversharing, I can walk away from that, feel that vulnerability hangover, and go, why did I do that? But what's important is that I hang out in that question and I get curious.
Ooh, I
Why
love
was
this.
why was I doing that? What was that about? What was that oversharing about? And often it's like I'm trying to endear myself to you. I'm trying to connect with you. It often comes from a place of insecurity with,
Right.
we're not fully grounded in ourselves. We're not in our own corner. So we're
Right.
giving something away too soon. In this
Yeah.
case, we're giving intimacy. We're opening the curtains way too soon. So
Mhm.
the more we can gently have that, I like to call it compassionate curiosity, super
Mhm.
compassionate, but deeply curious about why we behave in a way that doesn't actually feel good to us, the more we learn what to do differently next time and how to find that gauge of when it feels right for us. And
Mhm.
the key is right for us. Like for some
Yeah.
people, they're slower to warm up, and that timeline is going to be a lot longer. And for other people, they're more of a natural open book and they feel comfortable and they have maybe more inherent safety. And
Yeah.
that timeline is going to be shorter. And neither is right or wrong. It's about measuring what feels right within you.
Mhm. Oh, I love that you touched on that and on how the different ways can be equally, like, right. When you're I think there's a lot of women that are like, "Oh, that was me, oversharer," right? Like, I could hear so many people say that. I know I was definitely an oversharer. What about in situations where 'cause again, I always, interview people selfishly so I can reflect as well.
Go for it.
But it just 'cause I think too,
Yeah,
we're all just having the human experience, so if I felt it, I'm sure someone else has as well. What about
absolutely.
in a situation where you have someone that asks you many questions about yourself because
Mhm.
you feel they wanna know about you, and so you share openly,
Yep.
and you ask questions in return, but they're not willing to share, and it's
Yeah.
jarring.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It can
Does that
be. And
happen? Or it's like
oh, I think it happens all the time, and that's where, this piece about what I just said, that neither is right or wrong, they're just different. And,
mhm,
I have a way of thinking of boundaries that I like, which is really our boundaries are simply our preferences for living.
yeah,
And we're all in charge of our own life, and we get to have different preferences for living. So somebody might have a preference where they want to be that open book, and they might be talking to somebody who's really enjoying the open book but doesn't want to open theirs.
yeah, yeah,
And that imbalance can be really jarring. And then it really points to values there. In that moment, you might be noticing, ooh, that's jarring. I really value reciprocity, and I
mhm,
want to find somebody who can balance this out. Whereas
mhm.
somebody else might be in that situation and might love it and might go, wow, I feel so heard. That person barely talked. They just asked me all these questions. They might love it. And neither is right or
I love
wrong.
that.
It's noticing what's true for you. So if you leave the situation and that feels jarring for you, that tells you, oh,
Mhm,
balance is more important. And next time when they ask me two questions, before I answer the third, I'm going to ask them a question.
yes,
And if I get little in return, that's just information for me about what I
yes.
need in when I'm in relationship with people. You might need
I
somebody
love
who's an
that.
open book.
Yes, I love that, and when I came away from that situation well, at first you feel jarred and all those, like,
Yeah.
kinda defensive feelings,
Mhm.
but then in reflection, that was exactly what I thought is, like, if this situation were to happen again, how would I approach this? And I would do exactly what you said where, okay, I would share some, then ask a question because I am
Mhm.
also one that will just kinda go off because I think that it's gonna be reciprocated, and so I love it because it's not making the other person wrong for not
Absolutely.
being ready to share,
Yeah.
right? But you're right, maybe it's a value that for me is really important and that person maybe wouldn't share anyway, who knows, right? But
Yeah. One of
yeah,
the
thank
most helpful
you for
skill sets that I like to recommend to everybody comes out of a teaching called nonviolent communication, which is almost like it's kind of a big title, but it's
yeah.
so powerful. So if you can find that book, or the founder of it has a free YouTube for like 3 hours. He's doing a seminar back in San Francisco. But the
Mm,
heart of the concept of what makes this style of communication nonviolent is that as human beings, mostly because we're attachment oriented and because when we were little, we were so vulnerable and we were looking to the big people who raised us, asking the question, am I okay? Am I
mhm,
good enough? Am I
mhm,
lovable? Am I likable? Do I matter to you? And we were scanning our environments to get the yes. We wanted to know, I am okay. And when we were little, we were dependent on those big people's opinion of us, and we gathered it intrinsically, just collected evidence. But as we go forward in relationship, as adults, we are also constantly asking that question, am I okay? Am I okay? We're scanning. But that also means we're really, really wired to hear when somebody has a judgment against us. When
Mm,
we can feel that somebody is judging us or disapproving, we are super attuned to that.
mm,
And when we experience somebody's language as judging or evaluating or telling us we did something wrong, that feels violent to our psyche and our soul. So he found this method of communicating our needs in a way that is totally devoid of judgmental language. And it's
mm,
super effective. It's a strategy for asking for our needs to be met, for negotiating things in a way that doesn't trigger defensiveness in the other person, because you're not saying to them, you're doing anything wrong. Instead,
mm,
you're saying, hey, let me tell you about me. Let me teach you about me. This is who I am. This is what I feel. And this is what I need. In other words, you're not wrong for needing something different, but I'm
mm.
not wrong for needing this. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you what I need. And in that way, it's also self responsible. It's saying in relationships, it's my job to
Mhm.
teach you who I am and what I need and what my preferences are for living. And if we're going to be in a good, healthy relationship, that data is going to matter to you. And you're going to incorporate that in how you treat me. And
Yeah.
I'm going to witness you incorporate that. And that's going to tell me I'm in a relationship with somebody who's going to guard and protect my heart.
Mm. That's beautiful, that last part. Absolutely. It's not about being perfect, but when you are with someone, you wanna know that that's actually ultimately the goal is to protect your heart.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
And
that.
that you're willing to protect theirs.
Absolutely. And so a lot of this too comes across as, like, this idea of being heard.
Mhm.
So what is the
Central.
difference between? Because 'cause I've had people say that you were listening, but you didn't hear me, and
Yeah.
I've felt the same as well. "Oh, you were listening, but you didn't actually hear what I was
Mm,
saying."
yeah.
So how do you ensure you're heard, but also how do you ensure that you're hearing the other person as well?
Mhm. Wow, I love this question, and it's so, so powerful, and really, getting back to this thing about the little ones in all of us, our love relationships, our romantic relationships, in some ways become our second chance at
Mm,
getting that feeling that we all craved when we were little. We all craved to be really held and really seen and really known and
mm,
really loved and soothed. We wanted that. All little ones want that. And some of us were really lucky and we really got that. And then that patterns us to look for it in our love relationships. And others of us didn't fully get that. So we're looking for the second chance in our love relationship. We
mm,
really want to be held and seen and known and soothed. And the best way we can do that in love relationships now is
mm,
by learning the skills to be a deep witness, which means that kind of deep listening. Like I am going to be with you and I'm not only going to hear you, I'm going to understand you. Cuz that
mm.
that tends to be the at the heart of our craving is we want to feel understood.
Yeah.
Yes, I want you to hear what I'm saying, but I want to know that you get it, that you can get
Yes.
inside of it, that you're taking the time to feel what I'm
Yeah.
saying. And you might not agree with it, but can you at least validate why I'm feeling this way? And
Yeah.
that tends to be the biggest gift we can give somebody is when they're telling us, especially when they're telling us about their pain, and
Mhm,
especially when they're telling us about the pain we caused them, right?
mm,
Because when somebody's coming to us and it has something that we've caused them pain, it's really easy to check out and get defensive.
mm.
And that is a relationship killer when we move to defensiveness because
Yes.
when we share our pain with somebody and they go to defensiveness, they are not hearing us. They're not
Mm,
witnessing our experience, and we crave it so much. So when we can give somebody the gift of really slowing down and
mm.
being with their pain with curiosity and empathy and saying, not only do I hear you, but I get it. It makes sense. And that's the phrase. Like if you could just say that phrase,
Yeah.
I get it. It makes sense to me. Here's what's making sense to me about what you're saying. And the minute we can hear that resonance, like, oh, it is making sense, we feel really seen.
Mhm.
So it works both ways. It's what we need the most, but
Yeah.
it's also like in all the tools in the toolbox of relationship, that ability to really empathize and validate somebody's experience is probably one of the most powerful if you have that ability.
I love that. And also, I would say, like, taking the responsibility for it comes back to what you said about asking for what you need. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing worse than someone telling you later, "You didn't hear me." Well, you didn't tell, like, I felt like I was listening and really taking it in and really hearing and seeing you, and then you say that I wasn't, but
Mhm.
like, we're only human, so it's really up to us to say to the person, "Actually, I don't feel you're hearing me," or
Yeah.
vice versa.
Great. And then the real win is if they can say, I didn't feel like you heard me."
Mhm.
And then instead of getting defensive, which is easy to do and we all do it because
Yeah.
again, we're
Yeah.
scanning like lighthouses, like I don't want
Yeah.
to suck at life and are you telling me I just got that wrong? And then we get defensive, but if we can sidestep that defensiveness and say, "Oh, well, I really want to hear you. Let's try that again." And
Yeah.
then we step toward them and we say, "Okay, it matters. You matter."
Yeah.
And that's what we want to, when we want to feel heard, what we're really looking for is to feel like we matter enough to this
Mm.
other person that they're going to give us the time and the space and to have that open hearted, present experience where they're really present with us. They're listening, they're curious, they are not trying to win, they're trying to learn. Right? Because
Yeah.
often in conversation, when you're on other opposite sides, you
Yeah.
can be, like, really committed to trying to win the
Mhm.
argument or get your side, get your point across. But if you can instead be really committed to learning, what can I learn from what my partner's telling me? Then you can have some great results.
Yeah, I love that, and I guess it's also holding true to the idea that we're both on the same side. You're not trying to
Yeah.
go against each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that. There's this beautiful analogy that comes out of EFT, which is a relationship therapy by Sue Johnson, where she talks about oftentimes when we are in conflict with our partner, it's
Mhm.
like we are slaying dragons and the
Mm.
partner is the dragon and we're slaying each other and we have this conflict and maybe it's a repetitive pattern in our relationship that's so
Mhm.
destructive. But instead, if you could imagine, I mean, life is hard enough and we have enough dragons to slay just with the culture and work and finances and regular stresses.
Yeah.
The whole point of partnership is then we don't have to slay those dragons alone. We've got somebody at our shoulder, side by side. We're slaying the dragons of life together. So if you can keep them side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and even when the issue is a relationship issue, if you can look at it like instead of you're my dragon and I'm slaying you, instead, think of it like you and I are shoulder to shoulder, and out in front of us is something getting in the way of our relationship. There is something threatening our relationship. And even if that something is a behavioral pattern that comes up through one of us,
Yeah.
if you think of it like, hey, there's something threatening us, then
Mm.
we are on the same team and we're both trying to protect the relationship. And that can really keep you out of defensiveness and keep you
Yeah.
out of being at war with each other. Instead, you're on the same team
Mm.
defending and guarding the relationship.
Oh, I love that. Especially because, like, you're talking about, like, those little things, those little patterns really add up in day to day. They become a big it could become a big thing.
They become huge. And underlying them, though, those
Mhm.
little patterns that persist and they snowball into something huge because they never really get resolved. Usually at the core underneath them is going to be one of these 3.
Ooh.
It's going to be, do I matter to you?
Mhm.
It's going to be, are you there for me? Or it's
Mm.
gonna be, "Do you like me?" Which is different than love
Oh,
me. I might know you love
yeah.
me, but do you like me? Do you
Yeah.
respect me? Do you accept me? Do your eyes light up when you see me? Do you think I'm funny? So those 3 core questions, those tend to be at the heart of the little things. So let's say the little thing is, "Hey, you're always on your phone whenever I'm talking to you." You might think, like, we're keep fighting about you being on your phone, but
Mhm.
actually what's at the heart of that is, do I matter to you?
Yeah.
And when you're on your phone, I don't feel like I matter. So if
Mm.
you can get to those underlying hurts that
Yeah.
underlie the little issues, that's when you're in the meat of it. That's when you're actually going to get somewhere.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, I love that example. I love, like, those real examples that we can we all go, "Oh, yes."
Yeah. Yeah.
We really live in this time now where it's easy, and I think maybe even culturally, it's this idea of boundaries has been taken
Mhm.
to next level where we actually just start to cut people off, and we expect relationships to feel effortless, and so if they're too much work, we just discard them. Like, what do we lose when we avoid this discomfort or the being triggered and then ultimately just let these relationships go because it's just, "Hey, it's too hard. I've got a
Yeah,
boundary."
oh, yeah, you and I were kinda talking about this ahead of the call,
Mhm.
Rosa, when we were talking about this idea of some of our most challenging relationships being
Mhm.
brilliant and beautiful teachers for
Mhm.
us. And when we live in this culture of discarding, like, it's so easy to discard. I mean, I was, married, so I didn't get into the online dating apps, but now I see it so much in my clients, like, it's a culture of discarding. It's like people are dispensable because it's so easy to find the next, next, next.
Yeah.
And kind of what you're saying about, well, they're not respecting my boundaries, so I'm cutting them out. I think we really lose on a couple of levels. One is we lose the opportunity to have relationship be a classroom where we can
Mhm.
learn, where we can feel ourselves be challenged and grow within that. But that being said, relationships are meant to help our lives thrive and we want to be healthy and happy. So there is a threshold point where we
Mhm.
definitely don't want to overstay in something that is actually unhealthy for us, but we're not, people aren't disposable. These are human beings, human souls. And really, like I said, most of us have these little ones, these little triggered ones within us that get activated in a moment. So, when we're tossing them to a curb, what are we losing in that? And is there actually something worth investing in where if both people are willing to take responsibility, do the work, learn the skills, and
Mhm.
stick with it, there is incredible benefit to the growth that can happen. And,
Mhm.
as a couples therapist, I am all for we need to be in relationships that help us to thrive,
Mhm.
and so we need to be very, very clear on what are our no matter what non negotiables in life. Things like safety, things like general peace and harmony. However, if we discard and, let go of relationships too soon, it's a
Mhm.
huge missed opportunity because so much of what breaks down good relationships comes down to skills, things that can be taught and could have been taught. And oftentimes we're just not given the skills. There's no grade 11, grade 12 class that, really gives us these kinds of relationship skills. Most of what we
Very
know
true.
were what was modeled to us in our childhood or what we learn along the way, maybe what we pick up from a podcast.
Yeah.
But there are so many actual skills and practices that can propel relationships. So you can have great chemistry and a really great person who just doesn't have the skills. And
Mhm.
if you're willing to hang in there and find that heart of compassion and invest, and if the partner you're with is also willing to
Mhm.
invest, you can take a relationship really to the next level. Because if you know you already have some kind of soul connection or chemistry, then often what's missing is the skills.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of relationships are cut too soon because of a lack of skills.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I do see, I mean, this is probably very biased because it's just conversations I have with women that I know where in a lot of situations, women are like, they're doing the work. They're like open to, be having the conversations and hanging in there
Yeah.
to the point where sometimes they just hang in there too long.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's men that are very emotionally with it too, so this isn't against
Yeah.
men at all because I know those amazing men as well. I have
Yeah.
friends in these beautiful relationships, but it just seems maybe it's my world a bit more one-sided. What do you do if you're with someone that's not if someone's not open to the deeper discussions or the sticking it through, or they just
Yeah.
want it easy, then at some
It's
point, do you just walk away?
yeah, I mean, it's really hard. You have to be with a partner. Now that being said, there's capacity limitations. Somebody might not be as comfortable in these deeper places, but ideally for, in order for relationships to work and thrive and really to stay in your relationship,
Mhm.
you are going to need to motivate somebody or to have somebody who's already motivated to make it work with you. And they're with you because they like you, right? They want their relationship to
Yeah.
thrive. Most of the time, that's the motivation. So it does come down to communicating what
Mhm.
we need and then helping each other find the access to that. Like how are we going to get the skills? Where are we going to thrive and grow together? Oftentimes that can be a therapy process or
Right.
doing a book together or finding our path. But yeah, the thing about boundaries are they are they are overused. It can be a buzzword
Mhm.
and it can be set up as walls. Like, we can say, I often hear people say, well, they didn't respect my boundaries. But then when you inquire more, that person maybe never really clearly stated it. They
Yeah.
hinted at it,
Yeah.
and that really it was more like a wish. They wished that that person would interpret what they needed. So the skill of learning how to actually state a boundary, which it has to be clear, it has to be something that is not a wall. It's also flexible, which means our boundaries change with circumstances. They
Yeah.
often can. We can adapt, we can grow in terms of our sense of safety. And a boundary is not asking somebody else to do something. A boundary is telling them what we're going to do, what works for
Mhm.
us. If you're clearly communicating needs and setting boundaries, and then that person is repeatedly blowing past those,
Mhm.
that's data. That's
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
And that's when it might happen once or twice. And when you hold it up for them, the tell will be how do they respond? Do they respond where they step in with accountability, curiosity? Are they
Mhm.
interested in how that hurt your heart? Are they interested in repair? I would say there's a lot of hope there that that's somebody who can learn and has capacity. But if
Right.
you hold up your hurts to somebody and the fact that they're crossing your boundaries and what
Mhm.
you get instead is indifference, repeated defensiveness,
Mhm.
repeated blowing past the boundaries, that's pretty clear data that this is not somebody who you're gonna flourish with.
Yeah. And then at the end of the day, I hear this a lot, like lack of clarity, but at the end of the day, the only person that can give ourselves clarity is ourselves.
Mhm. With the beautiful partnership of our body, that inner
Yes.
knowing, right? That inner knowing in our deep
Mhm.
gut. There is an inner knowing. I like to think of it as the soul,
Mhm.
the spirit, the inner guide, the higher self. There's something inside of us that is very clear on the answer. What gets in the
Yeah.
way and what muddles it up is our mind, the
Yes,
overthinker in all
yes.
of us that gets talking the pros and cons. And then we
Yeah.
talk to our girlfriends and we get this advice or that advice, and it gets really, really noisy. But if
Yeah.
we can go to the silent spaces within us, the answer is usually there in a pretty
Mhm.
pronounced way in terms of what's healthy for us and what do we need and want. And it gets back to these no matter what goals. I think of it like a North Star within you. You
Mm.
have a dream for your life and you have a dream for
Yes.
your relationship. And this isn't about perfection. Nobody is perfect. It isn't about
Yeah.
getting kind of snowed under by the Hollywood ideal of
Yeah.
romance. It's about those real basic values.
Yeah.
And if you know that the dream for your life is a relationship where you feel safe and
Mhm.
respected and connected and there's an element of freedom and peace, you can measure that. And
Mhm.
as you're in your relationship with your partner, if that's not there, then it's worth fighting for that. And that might mean asking your partner to come along on a healing journey with you, a
Mhm.
journey of change. And if they're not willing or not able, it might mean going a separate path and freeing each other to go a different
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So one I'm really taking from this is get very clear on what your values are in relationship, that it's so worth that time, and
Yeah.
yeah, do that in February, the love month. I think that's
Yeah.
a great
It's a great
practice
time to
this
do it.
month. I also really just love the way you explain that, like, yes, it's in your body. We all know it's in our body. I
Yeah.
know whenever I'm feeling anxious and if it has to do with relationship, whether it's romantic or family or whatever it is, that if I go walking, I feel
Yeah.
so much better. So I take care of myself physically and I also feel it emotionally.
Mhm.
So I get that feeling. But I love how you say you know it and then it gets clouded
Mhm.
by the brain and by the all the old patterns, I'm sure.
Mm.
But you're right. We all have that moment of like, oh, that relief. like,
Yeah.
that you can breathe. So that's that moment of clarity. We just don't
Y
always choose to listen to it right
Yeah.
away.
And that doesn't mean there's not grief. Like, I think
Yeah.
this part confuses people.
Yeah.
It's like if they end a relationship and they grieve, does that mean they made the wrong choice? Does that mean they
Right.
weren't supposed to end the relationship? And I
Yeah.
think that can be confusing for people. And what I like to say about this is that nobody is all good or all bad. And
Yeah.
so when we're grieving a partner, it's because we're grieving the parts of them where our souls really did resonate with each other. The
Yeah.
parts of them where we lit up and we were on fire, had fun, or there was passion or connection. And it's okay to grieve those parts and
Beautiful.
simultaneously recognize that there were other aspects that didn't align with our values or our
Yeah.
future dream for our life. And so, we wouldn't really be human if we didn't grieve the parts that were good. There are always
Yeah.
going to be parts that are good. So that's not the tell. Whether or not you're sad or whether or not there's grief is not the indicator of whether or not the relationship
Mhm.
needs to go or needs to stay.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful explanation. Peggy, I just realized how long we've been chatting for because we can
Okay.
chat
Yeah.
forever. Is there anything that I haven't asked you? Like we're going to talk about like what you have coming up and
Yeah.
how people can get in touch. But is there anything within this conversation that you feel like we've kind of left unsaid?
Oh, we hit some of my favorite points. Like we talked about repair, we talked about feeling seen and heard and held and known. So I think we hit the real big ones. I guess the only thing that I would say is why, just cycling back to relationship as the mirror, and I
Yeah.
see relationships as a sacred practice. Like it
Mhm.
is to me the most exciting learning ground for human evolution because my sense, my belief is that we do get wounded when we're little in all kinds of conscious and unconscious ways, and we carry forth these beliefs about ourselves unconsciously that just aren't true.
Mhm.
And relationships can be the most powerful vehicle for correcting those untrue beliefs when relationships are done well, when they're
Mhm.
skillfully applied. So it makes it very exciting to find yourself in a skillful, healthy relationship. There's like actually a wound healing element in that.
Mhm.
And it can wind up giving us a powerful opportunity to
Mhm.
mirror back to somebody else their
Yeah.
light through our skills of being a deep listener, of being able to repair, of holding somebody's heart safely through those skillful ways. It's a very cool opportunity. So it's a worthy pursuit, is what I would say.
Oh, what a beautiful way to end that because I do think sometimes we're in such this selfish space where it's not just about us, but yeah, what a beautiful gift to give that in return and a beautiful gift to receive because
Mhm.
receiving is good too. But
Mhm.
I love that. Yeah, thanks
Yes.
for bringing it back to kind of where we started in this conversation. Let's get into it then. Can you let us know what do you have coming up, if anything? What are the best ways for someone to get in touch with you? Because I know after this, people will want to get in
Mhm.
touch.
Yeah, well, I offer retreats for couples and individuals. I have a women's retreat coming up on Vancouver Island in May. There's still a couple of
Ooh,
spots left. That's a
amazing.
real juicy one called Nourish. And I am starting in March, 6-month online coaching journey for relationships. It's called the Nourish Circle, Sacred Relationships. So that's going to be a monthly gathering where we meet for 90 minutes, where it's kind of like an online retreat where we're going to have meditation, then a different teaching on relationship skills, then a Q&A where people can bring their questions, and an opportunity to do a little book club at the end where there'll be a different book on relationships that I'm going to recommend. And every month we'll come and we'll discuss that. So that's for women, men, singles, couples, anybody. You don't need to be in a relationship to be part of that. And you can find all of that on my website, deepercravings.com.
Oh, thanks for making that so clear. I actually think when we're not in relationship, it's just such a great time to really get into everything and learn. And yeah, it's a great opportunity as well.
I agree. And sometimes when we've just ended a relationship, it's a beautiful time if you can, instead of coming at it with so much regret and bitterness, just think of it like what great training ground. And I'm going to
Yeah.
reflect on that past relationship and where could I have done better? Where could they have done better? So it's a great, whether you're single or in relationship or freshly out of relationship, it's always a beautiful time to tool up
Yeah.
and to just know that we're evolving and we can
Yeah.
grow.
Amazing. Peggy, thank you so much. Thanks for your time, for your insights, for your care, for your love, for all of it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I love it. I always love my conversations with you, Rosa.
Same.
So
Thanks.
fun. Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening in today. I know time is precious and I'm grateful you shared yours with me. It would mean the world to me if you felt an impact, a moment of inspiration, or learned something new, if you would share it with those you care about and leave me a review on iTunes. I'd love to know what spoke to you or what you'd like to hear more of. Your sharing and leaving a review would help so much on this journey to making an impact on as many people as possible. It's worth it. I know from experience, there are moments when something we hear has the possibility of changing everything.